Hey, hey, I'm Ayuma Michelle, and welcome to Let's with Ayuma. This is an online safe space that I created to empower millennials just like me to thrive with purpose. Today, I'll be focusing on how to create wealth during an economic crisis. And so, from your feedback, I know that many of you are entering, or rather entered 2020, with the challenges which you shared with me, which is job loss, unemployment, short contracts, losing contracts, business ideas failing. And many of them are actually very, very finance related and wealth related. And so I'd like to share with you today 6 ways in which you could actually enable yourself to create wealth even during an actual financial crisis and during an oncoming financial crisis. Because guess what, the current crisis that we are facing here in Kenya, it's not just in our country, it's faced by various countries across the globe. There's an actual recession that's going to affect many countries around the world, and continents. So for example, Europe, there's India, there's US, and even China and Japan. Many economies are not doing well, and Kenya hasn't been left out of it. And so what basically needs to happen is that people need to basically figure out ways in which they can create wealth ahead of this recession, because that's how you prepare. You prepare ahead of the recession, not during the recession. So I just thought to create this video to actually empower us to not be reactive to the situation, because some of these things we cannot just wish them away. It's an actual nationwide thing, but there is hope. There is great hope. And there are people, if you didn't know, there are people who actually become wealthy during recessions. And I want us to be I want us to be those people, because we prepared, we equipped ourselves, and we thrived. Because Let's with Ayuma is about thriving with purpose, not surviving, right? So I'll share with you quick insights, a great example, and then the 6 ideas, right? So the first insight I'll share with you is that, do you know that getting a job isn't the only way to create wealth? Unfortunately, our schools have taught us that work hard, get a job, and that'll be your livelihood. That's not the way. Actually, the Bible in Ecclesiastes 11 tells us that each one of us should have or could explore 8 revenue streams. Can you imagine? So that means in a house where 2 people are married, that is 16 revenue streams. Meaning if 8 fail, you have 8 more. And so that means we serve a God of abundance. And because he's a God of abundance and he's a creator, he expects us to also create. And so just having one job as an income stream, surely that's limiting yourself, because you have been created to have more, to create more, and to sustain yourself. And when you just have one revenue stream, you end up living in survival mode. But when you have 8, you're living in thriving mode. And that's what Let's with Ayuma is all about. Because at the end of the day, wealth is not just about having money in the bank. It's not about having a Lamborghini. It's not about flashing cars and wearing nice clothes and stuff like that. Wealth, not only is it a mindset, but also wealth is the ability to live your desired lifestyle without having to work for it. Meaning your money is working for you. You are not working for the money. Your money is working for you. And so your greatest assets to create wealth are, number 1, your creativity. We've been created to create. Imagination, thinking outside the box and challenging yourself to think of new ways of doing stuff. But also your commitment to serve. Because when you put yourself out there in service, that's when people see you. That's when they see your gifts. That's when you put into practice those gifts. That's when people notice you and call you to action. There are many recruiters I've talked to who actually confirm that volunteer jobs nowadays, on your CV, they consider that as actual work experience. So when you volunteer your time, let's say when you're not unemployed, you don't need to just hide yourself and maybe throw a pity party. And what you need to do is put yourself out there in service. Volunteer. If maybe you've been applying for jobs for 20 times, somebody shared in the survey that they've applied for jobs and not getting responses, even though they've tried applying 20 times. Then I'm like, do something, do it differently. Volunteer at an organization you really love and admire and you really believe in. Volunteer. And when you volunteer, people will see you. They will get to know you, your personality, your gifts, your talents. They will see you at work. And guess what? I have heard of so many people who volunteered their time and they've gotten absorbed by the organizations because they put you first. They've seen you at work. You see, that's one of the ways. And then just make sure also spiritual discernment is very important, because I myself have faced various seasons in business where I just feel like I'm stuck, like I'm stagnant, like things are just not working. But only when I put myself in, when I retreat into meditation and prayer and sometimes even fasting, only then do I get quality ideas that help me attract quality clients who help me earn quality returns, and that actually sustains my business and gives me such great fulfillment out of serving with my gifts. And at the end of the day, it actually helps me have a great impact in the areas of service that I have been called to actually serve. You see, so just remember, doing things the same old way, it's no longer the same way. Especially when you know that we're living in an economic crisis, or there's an oncoming recession, you need to think differently. You need to think differently, because you're thinking about thriving, not surviving. And so your mindset needs to be completely A game. Like, it needs to be A game point. It needs to be on point. So I'll share with you a quick story and an example, a model of how we can actually thrive. And this is a story of a guy called Joseph in the Bible. And this guy, he'd actually been sold as a slave to the Egyptian people. And at one time, he found himself in prison. He'd been imprisoned because of, false accusation. But even though he was in prison, he was not thinking like a prisoner. Because even in prison, he was using his gift to serve people. He was interpreting people's dreams. And whilst in prison, somebody remembered him. And because the king at that time was having a challenge with dreams he could not interpret, his nice fancy officials could not interpret what these dreams meant, somebody remembered him, because whilst in prison, he was serving. And so he was called to serve the king. And when he served the king, indeed, he ended up interpreting the dream, which was that there was an oncoming 7 years of great harvest and then 7 years of famine. And so because of that, the king was able to start inquiring, how then can we prepare? And that's when Joseph was able to propose an idea of how they could prepare. And guess what? Because the king trusted him, because he was able to serve the king, interpret that dream and share an idea, the king then trusted him with implementing that idea. And guess what? Till today in Egypt, you will see that particular idea that he proposed is still in effect, because his idea was that the people would give a portion of the harvest to the government to store it. I think it's a fifth of their harvest. And because of that, the Egyptian nation then ended up being the reserve, the hotspot for food security. People from all kinds of nations came to Egypt to buy food. They were selling all manner of things so that they can get food. Because guess what? You can sell that Lamborghini just to get a plate of hot ugali. When famine hits, when real food crisis hits, that Lamborghini, you cannot eat it. People think of essentials during recessions. People think about essentials. So even the richest of the rich, people who have Lamborghinis and stuff, you will start thinking about that simple plate of ugali. You and the poor man will end up being at the same level, because all of you need food. You don't all need Lamborghinis, but you need food. That's what Joseph was able to do. And so I also challenge us, can we try to be like Joseph? That even before the famine comes, let us be the people. Let us be like such treasure. Let us be like great advantages. Let us be like great assets wherever we are. Joseph was in prison, but he did not think like a prisoner. He still served. And because he served, somebody remembered him. Somebody saw him serving and remembered him because he was at work. And then he ended up being called to serve the king of one of the largest nations at that time, the most powerful nations at that time. And he served the king just as he served the prisoners with his same gift. After serving the king, The king, he ended up interpreting. The king started asking him for ideas. Then he ended up being given the authority by the king because he showed capacity, because he was serving using his gift to be of service to this nation. And guess what? He ended up being given authority as a great and mighty official in Egypt, even though he was not even Egyptian. So how can one come from becoming a prisoner to suddenly becoming a high-ranking official in Egypt who actually protects the country from recession? You can. It started with his mindset. It also became, he also learned to be an asset wherever he is. And I believe that you can do the same. Start looking at yourself as an asset in your community, in your areas of service. How can you show up and serve? It does not matter whether you have a job or money or not. It's just like, what do you feel passionate about, and how can you show up and serve? Because you never know who's watching, you never know who's paying attention, and you never know who one day can call you as to be of service because they've seen your capacity. You see? So that is one thing that I'd like us to explore: the personality and the character and the mindset that we need to have so that we can be wealth creators. So I'll go through these 6 ways in which specifically Kenyan, yes, there's a global economic crisis, but I'd like to specifically speak about Kenya. And if it also applies, if you're watching from other places in Africa or in the world, these are principles that you can also explore. What does this look like in your country, right? So number 1, invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Nothing ever beats investing in yourself. For example, take a class. Learn a new skill. Ask someone to teach you. You see, I kid you not. For me, in order for me to serve as a coach, I needed to actually seek some kind of training. For me to be able to even speak with confidence, because confidence is a skill. It's not just something that somebody has. It's a skill. You need to keep practicing. And those are some of the things that I needed to do. Invest in yourself. Invest money, invest time, invest lessons so that wealth can come to you, so that you can truly have the capacity to create wealth. The second one is, please stay productive. Yes, especially in the news, when you watch the news and dealing with all financial news, it may not be the most positive news. But guess what? I encourage you to wake up, dress up, and show up and serve. When you stay productive, you can then attract wealth. You can then create. You can then earn. And then you can maximize on your wealth, right? But if you're not productive, how can you get wealth? Because the principle of wealth is multiplication. But if the principle of wealth is multiplication and you're not producing and you're not staying productive, how exactly can that work? Stay productive. And always stay. By being productive, it means you're staying prepared. Joseph was in prison, but he stayed productive, serving with his gift. And the beauty about gift is that the more and more you serve, and the more and more you work on it, you become better and better and better. And guess what? One moment you will be serving prisoners, the next you'll be serving the king of Egypt. That's actually what happened. The third one is, sorry about that, understand the diversity of your skills. Understand the diversity of your skills and match with the needs in the community. So for example, don't just focus on that one job which is on your CV. Don't focus on that one thing which your degree focused on. Don't focus on that one thing which you've been doing this whole time. Conduct an audit in your household and just ask yourself, what skills do I have? For example, myself, I realized that I actually have great cooking skills. And how can this prepare me for the recession? Well, I will no longer have to buy bread because now I know how to bake. Some of the things I no longer have to eat out as much because I can create those amazing gourmet skills right from home because I have that stuff here, right? So those are some of the things. What are the skills that you actually have? And maybe even through this baking, maybe I can bake for my neighbors so that they too no longer have to go and buy from the supermarket unhealthy stuff, but also it can be affordable because maybe I've bought things in wholesale. You see, that's how you can show up and be of service in your community through your skills, your variety of skills. You're not just this one thing. You are beautiful and you've been blessed with lots of a bountiful of skills, figure out which skills are those. Because guess what, in recession, remember what I shared, in recession people think of the necessities. What skills do you have which can not only sort you out with necessities, but that can also sort out your community with necessities? The fourth one is invest your money in productive things. Like, don't put money. For myself, I remember I've been invited to lots of networking events of late, and I've said no. Because why? That's my productive time. Like, I do not, if something goes beyond 6 p.m., I am not there. Because I'm a creative, I do lots of my creative projects at night. And also, that's my quality time with family, catching up with friends who are in all over the different parts of the world. That's when they're normally available. So not only am I getting lots of, emotional support from the people who really matter to me, but also I am protecting my creativity and my creative time. Because guess what, that creativity is what's helping me create wealth for myself. So invest your money in productive things. The fifth one is invest in liquid assets. Liquid assets are basically assets that you can quickly convert into cash or cash itself. Meaning, if a recession happens, how quickly can you convert whatever assets you have into money, right? So if you have company shares, and then if you have cash, which one is it easy? Imagine if you're at an auction, which one will it be easy? What is easier to sell, company shares or actual cash? Or maybe trade with a house or something like that. So various liquid assets are like cash, like accounts payable, and also inventory. So if people are owing you money, if you've already served people owe you money, those are accounts payable. And inventories, if you have stuff to sell. So those are some of the things that you could explore. It's all about cash flow. The reason why recessions happens is because a country does not have enough cash flowing. And so make sure that your assets can return cash. All of the assets you have, create a portfolio, or like literally create an audit, conduct an audit, and find out what assets do you have. Do you have shares? Do you have what is it called? Do you have bonds? Do you have stocks? What do you have? Do you have actual real cash? And make sure when you have cash, don't just put it in a savings account, because unfortunately in our banks the interest rates are at a record low. So that money is just not doing anything for you. Invest that money. Invest it. I literally know of somebody who every single 3 months, or even every month, another one, every single month, they get some serious cash which sorts them out with their domestic expenses from money markets funds. Please look into money markets funds. They are the best. The more you put in, the more that money works for you, the more you get out of it. So imagine not having to literally go out there working so that you can have something to eat. But because you took proactive action, you put your money somewhere, you're assured that every single month or every single quarter, you will have enough to literally buy shopping or sort out household expenses. That is a wealth mindset. The lifestyle you have is being sustained by this cash which is working for you. That's wealth, right? And then the last one is, please invest in insurance for the necessities, things like health. You cannot buy health. Please invest in insurance, because during recession all manner of things happen. Don't invest in insurance on things like handbags and just weird things like lifestyle stuff, not lifestyle but just luxury stuff. Please invest in insurance on the necessities. Number one, health. You don't know what could happen. Please invest in insurance on the necessities. Oh, and there's a last one, a bonus. Please, and this is something that I have learned to do, please do more of what actually you do best. And I will be honest, right now in my business, I am doing an overhaul. I am not even putting any time and money into, let's say, the services that are not my best. There are those ones which, oh, you can do this, oh, this one you can do. No, it is now time for my best. I am going to go on A game. I'm going to go on beast mode, because this is recession and I want to thrive during the recession. I just don't want to survive. So guess what? I am going to focus on the things that I am best at. And I'm going to focus my productivity, my creativity, my imagination, my money on these things. So you can only imagine if you can do the same. Focus on the things that you do best. And imagine all of us are best at a couple of things. And I'm so honest about this. I realized when I actually sat down and I looked at what am I actually great at, not only did I realize that I do best at certain things, but also it's not just one thing. There are a couple of things that I actually do excellently. And guess what? When I actually listed them down, they come close to 8 revenue streams. I ask you to do the same, because remember, wealth is about a mindset. It is driven by a mindset of abundance. It's driven by a mindset of seeing yourself as a source. It is driven by preparing proactively ahead of seasons of recessions, but also it is about being the ability of affording the kind of lifestyle you desire to live without having to work for it. And guess what? There are many people who've thrived even during recessions. Can we be those people? I believe that we can. And that's all for today. And I'll share more about how we can thrive and not just survive as millennials. So I'll see you in the next video. This is Let's with Ayuma, where I'm empowering millennials to thrive with purpose. See you. Bye-bye.